You are a genius.
But wait a second. How do you know that?
Everyone is a genius. We just often have been shamed for our gifts and strengths. And so we don't tend to develop our uniqueness in this world. Most of us don't know what that is.
So we've invested the next 4 podcasts into exploring your genius.
In a world where achievements and accolades motivate us to do more and be more, we're often left wondering, is this really it?
Deep inside, you know there is more to life. You're ready to leave behind the old, push your way through, and claim the deeper life that's calling you.
That's where we excel.
We're your hosts, Stephanie Allen.
And Maren Stephanie.
And this is the Soulful Leader Podcast.
Sit back and relax as we share the shortcuts we've uncovered to help you make shift happen.
Hi, welcome to the Soulful Leader Podcast. We're going to be doing things a little differently this month. We're going to focus on our gifts and strengths. And I'm going to start a little bit with kind of a question, though. Have you ever been told that you're too much of something or too little of something? Right? Like, oh, you're too talkative. Oh, you're just too creative. Oh, you're always, got your nose in a book somewhere. You're not enough of something else. And that really puts a lot of shame onto us. And we either get rebellious and we go, if I'm being labeled as too talkative, I'm just going to talk all the time and talk louder and faster and in your face. Or we get ashamed from it and we stuff it in and we hide it and we go away. And that can often be our greatest gift. So we're going to talk a little bit about profiling tests, which are meant to help you find out who am I, why am I here, what are my gifts, and what are my strengths. But as Maren and I have been talking in the past, there's a lot of tests out there. How do you know which one, and what ones are the ones that are going to most help you unfold your reason for being and to really liberate your gifts and strengths? So, Maren, do you want to say a little bit more about profiling tests and your thoughts? And
Yeah, well, I love that question because I think that we've all been in that position of feeling like either we're too much in some way, shape, or form, or too little. We didn't do enough. And I think that that is part of the popularity of the profiling tests because, whether you're an 8 on the Enneagram or your human design is such and such, or, the DISC system. And as leaders, we use the profiling tests a lot to help us hopefully know our teams a little bit better. And my question is, are we actually using it like that? Or are we using it to define ourselves? And
yeah, rather
that's
than what you had mentioned is like defining ourselves, and then we get labeled and we get kind of stuck in that, and there's
right.
no creativity, there's no space for us to really explore. Or are we using it to actually refine our skills and bring them into a cohesiveness that actually not only ignites our potential, but also really supports the whole team to grow and become even better than what we could be on our own?
Exactly. And, like, how often do you hear somebody tell you their number as a this? Like I said, 8 on the Enneagram or Enneagram. I'm not sure how you pronounce it. Or, I'm an INTP or like for the
The
Myers-Briggs.
Myers-Briggs.
And I oftentimes think I hear people saying it almost as an excuse for this is an excuse for bad behavior, right?
Mm.
Well, I can't do that, or I don't, that's not who I am. Instead of as an exploration of the actual gifts and strengths. So
So
it's a fine line.
it is a fine line, isn't it? Because as much as we want to know ourselves and we might want to know and understand someone else, we also don't want to be manipulated and controlled and limited into who we are and why we're here. So there's that finding that space within And I've often heard so many times too, it's like there's 3 reasons why we can, end up turning out our profile the way it is. And one can be from conditioning from our lives, that we are told that we have to be better at X, Y, or Z. Like we have to be better students. So you need to be still more, and you need to pay attention, and you need to read more and not go out and be extroverted. You need to be more introverted so that if you want to succeed. And so we build a skill set, which may or may not even be our strength set, but we
Right.
build a skill set to be able to keep the peace, so to speak, or be achieving.
It's our
I mean, that's
conditioning.
one way, right?
Right.
It's our conditioning. The second way, it could be totally um, a way of we are totally in denial of our gifts and strengths because we don't know. We haven't
Or
created
we were
enough.
shamed
Yeah, we've been
for them when we were
shamed by it.
younger.
So we haven't allowed ourselves to explore, who am I? Why am I here? And you haven't had enough life experience to try on. It's kind of like trying on different outfits to see which one fits. Like you haven't had that playfulness, that extraordinary recreation of yourself to be able to try things on. And then the third way, I always like this one too, is that it could actually be your profile and you're completely in denial
That was
because
me.
you've been shamed, right? Because yeah,
Yeah.
me too. I was like, oh, I don't want to be that. Like I've been shamed so much in my life. The last thing I want to be is that. And so I veered away from developing it and refining it. And I think what we're talking about and what you're presencing, Maren, is that there is another way.
Yeah. Very much
And
so.
what do we do with it once we have it? So can you
And I
say more to that?
Yeah, so regardless, so Stephanie and I use a tool called Wealth Dynamics, and it is a profiling tool. And the reason that we've chosen this particular tool is that it is business oriented. And unlike some of the other tools that are out there, it has kept the spirituality in it. So when I say that, the tool was based on the the mystics and the I Ching and a lot of work that similar tools to what Carl Jung had, actually the same tools that Carl Jung used in his assessment of personalities. And there are
Which
multiple,
became the Myers-Briggs
which
test,
became
right?
some, yeah, right. There are multiple tools that are based on the I Ching and the work of Carl Jung and the other, that type of thing. So most of them, in order to make it palatable for business, took the whole spirituality side out so that it became very concretized and like logical, linear. And the
Yeah, because they just
reason,
wanted people who could show up and work, and they wanted to
yes,
know where to put them. They
mm,
didn't really care so much about the existential questions of who are they as a human being, and you
how do we
know
help develop them?
what are their
And
values, what are their exactly. They were just like, can you do this job or not?
yeah, and plug and play, like put
Right.
the cog in the wheel and we're done. Um, so Wealth Dynamics has kept all of that in while also being a powerful business tool. So we use it, and kind of what we wanted to do with you all this month is look at, if you're currently using some sort of a profiling tool, or you know what your number, your letters or whatever are, then follow along with us. And how do you play with that? How do you use that information to develop yourself and or your team, instead of just using it to define yourself? I like to say we we use it to refine ourselves, not define ourselves. And there's
I
a big,
love that.
big difference,
I love that
right?
because rather than just staying on the surface of, like you said earlier, of defining of like, well, that's just who I am. I am this profile. And if you don't like it, that's tough. Too bad for you, kind of thing. And
Right.
and it when we're that way, it limits our growth potential. It's an actual fixed mindset. And we want to be more growth and oriented versus saying, hey, this is where I came out as a profile. What do I do with this? How do I refine it? How do I skill build within this? And where do I actually help my team when I'm in flow or when I'm actually in this presence of this development, which is really about the collaboration and the coming together.
And to be honest, the first thing that you and I do with people is we don't look at the profile and define the person by the profile. We talk to the person and say, does it fit?
Yeah, because
What
sometimes it doesn't,
and
you know?
what parts of it fit and what parts of it don't? I'd say another reason that we really like this profiling tool, Wealth Dynamics, is that it's based on the premise that all parts are in us. So it's not that we are segregated out into this one profile. It's that we have all parts of us and that we're most in flow when we're doing the things that are in that are in our like that are in our gifts and strengths.
Right. Like, so one of our teachers, Daniel Goodenough, who is totally about helping people remember the reason for being and why that's important for our humanity, is he often will say, doing the thing that you love the best in the way that you love to do it with the people you love the most in the way that the world most needs it done. That would be flow.
Yeah.
And to be able to be
And how do you
refined,
find that?
how do you find that? There's so many profile tools out there to be able to find out who am I and why am I here? But there's also multiple levels of that. And I think we sometimes think it's a one and done. It's like, oh, I know what my profiling is, but there's a development. And what I'm hearing you say too, Maren, is that what I imagine is like a pie shape. Like think of a pie and that you have elements of you have the whole pie, but there's a greater amount of that pie that is actually you. So if you think of like a pie chart, right? It's like, and so the larger percentage of who you are, when you can really focus on development of that, that's when you really move into flow. And what flow is the path of least resistance. And in Chinese medicine, which is also based on the I Ching, is that when there is flow, there is no stress. If you don't have flow, you will have stagnation. Stagnation leads to dis-ease. And whether we're talking physical pain and disease, or emotional, or financial, or relationship disease, there's so many different ways where there isn't ease in our life. And so it can be used in so many different ways.
Yeah.
That's the value of finding your flow.
And then as a leader, if you either have an internal team that's already your team or you're hiring, people to help you in different places and, like independent contractors, either way, knowing A, your flow, and then B, their flow, and whether it's going to be a good fit or that's actually what you need in that instance, it makes all the difference. I know when I started my studio, I I had this tool and I hadn't used it. And I was really stuck. I wasn't nothing was flowing. We had lots of ideas because I tend towards the idea side in this particular profiling tool. We call it dynamo energy. And I had hired all people that were dynamo energy. So we had lots of ideas and nothing was getting done. And so the benefit to me was once I actually put the tool into practice, I was then able to hire not just for skill, because I had people who they had the skills, but they weren't motivated to do the things because there were idea people, right? And so I was not just I think you had mentioned this earlier. It's like the skill sets and the things that we develop are not necessarily in line with our gifts and our strengths.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the powers of profiling tools is starting to help you to find that. And instead of using it as a little badge that you stick on your chest and say, this is who I am, it's a way to delve deeper and say, is it who I am? And what part of it is who I am? And how do I use that to get into flow so that I stay in flow, so that my team gets in flow, so that like we're moving and grooving together instead of being stagnant like my team was.
Yeah. And I mean, we can be very shamed. Like we were talking
Mhm.
earlier, like when we're in flow, the things that come naturally to you, like if you are someone who's more naturally introverted and you're really great at just going deep into the research and reading and but you're not necessarily social, you can be shamed for being introverted when somebody else is really wanting you to be outward because that's who they are. And I hear often so many times, like, how do I not take things personally? Like, so and so said this about me, or this is going on, and I'm taking it personally. And my answer to that is to really know who you are and to love that part in yourself, to release the shame that what you're generally or naturally good at, it comes actually easily to you, and you will tend not to value that in yourself. And so when I say, to get to know yourself, then you start to value yourself, then you actually have that space to hear where someone else is coming from and you don't take it personally. You can hear what they're needing and know what it is, where you can help or where you can walk away or where you can just even just be neutral with it, just be in love and acceptance with it. And I think it's so powerful in the way of teams that there's less, not that there's less conflict, but there's less drama.
Yeah. And we are in love with self-discovery, which I love. I mean, this is a phenomenal thing in humans, right? Is that we want to know more about ourselves and not just leaving it at the surface level. I think that's what we're talking about is like instead of, oh, I found out this cutesy little thing about me. I'm this in whatever profiling system, and then I stick it on my forehead as a badge, and then I just leave it there.
Mhm.
Is how are you using your tools? That's really what we want to get at. And so this month, what we're going to do is in the Wealth Dynamics profiling tool, there are 4 basic energies: dynamo, blaze, tempo, and steel. And then there are 8 profiles that are come out of those energies. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through the 4 basic energies with everybody this month on the podcast. And then we'll mention which profiles relate to each energy so you can follow along with us. And if you're in love with DISC or the
The
Enneagram or
Myers-Briggs.
Myers-Briggs or whatever it is, think about that as we're going through it, because we'll be asking you a lot of questions and helping you to go deeper into knowing who you are and using the tool that you've chosen to go deeper. And if
So
you don't,
what I'm also hearing you say is that it isn't about those other profiles being right or wrong or good or bad. It's being able to actually integrate those into even yet another profile
yeah,
so that we can transcend and include them
right.
and go deeper in refining who you are, why you're here, what your gifts that you bring and how to refine them.
You know, you used a term that I absolutely love, and I don't know how many people understand it: transcend and include. So oftentimes we think either this or that, like it's this way or it's that way. And we're very, as a culture, we want to be inclusive. And so there's a movement towards everything's right.
Mm-hmm. See that
And
a
I
lot.
just, right? We do see
And
that a lot.
yeah, we see that a lot. And there's a lot
And
of pain in that.
it's important, and there's a step after that. And that's the step of transcend and include. What I mean by that is when you're in 3rd grade, you're not equal to somebody who's in 12th grade. You are in that you're a human being, but you don't know as much as somebody in 12th grade. The person in 12th grade has gone through 3rd grade, so they have transcended that. It's also a part of them, so they've included it.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's not right, wrong, good, bad to be in 3rd grade or to be in 12th grade. That's just where you are. And that's what we're talking about, is not right, wrong, good, bad to be this profile or that profile or do this test or do that test. They're all equal in some ways. And then also they're different. And both are true. And that's the transcending and including, is having both of those things be true.
And I bring that into transcend and include into relationships because we can often think when someone is very different from us, whether it's in a leadership role, whether it's in a relationship role as a partner or a child, or that someone should be more like X, someone needs to be more like this. Instead of saying, I'm curious. I wonder what that is. And can we find the transcendence and the inclusion for both? So where do we need to be? That's the old Rumi saying, right? Beyond right doing and wrong doing, there's a field. I'll meet you there. Where can we meet? And that's not the compromise or the happy meeting. It's none of that. It's actually on another level above where we are right now. We need to evolve. We need to grow to the new level, which includes both of what you want and what I want, and also creates space for what wants to happen that transcends both.
And I will say that from a business perspective, when you hit that, you are in complete stride and like there is absolutely no stopping you. When we did that at the studio, that's when we were like running on all cylinders, and everybody, all the team members were working together, even though we're completely different profiles. And that's what worked. That's what made it work. It was so fascinating and amazing to watch and to see and to experience. And that's again one of the reasons that we use this particular tool, because we are about business. Soulful leadership is in business. And how are we doing that not only inside of ourselves, how are we doing it inside of our businesses, and then how is it impacting the planet, the larger social structure, which I know Stephanie and I are both are passionate about. That it's not just about us, and it's not about us at all. It's about you guys, and then the ripple effect of like, let's get this so that more and more and more people are thinking at a higher level and in being more inclusive, but not in a harmful way,
Yeah.
from a place of empowerment. Yeah. So
Empowerment, collaboration, cooperation, all of those parts from a place that we haven't been before. Like I often say, we have to let go of who we think we are so that we can step into who we are meant to become. The ego so gets identified. And this is where we were talking about labels, or we're talking about defining ourselves by this, instead of being open to the evolution of it, that there's actually, and this is what I love about the Wealth Dynamics program, is that there's multiple levels of evolution of one profile. It isn't not just are you this profile, but there's multiple stages of development within that.
and the entire thing is based on your why. Like everything is, and that's we're talking about the spiritual side of things. It's like everything is based on your why. So, if you are interested in finding out your energy, that's a free thing, and you can go to our website for that. We're also doing a special for anyone that's interested in finding out their profile. So you can go to our website and find out about that. So over the next month, we will be doing our normal Audible podcast. We'll also be adding some visuals for anybody that's interested. There are two different ways that you'll be able to get those. Either going to our YouTube channel, which is The Soulful Leaders, or if you're on our email list, we'll have an attachment that's in the show notes for each of the different energies. So make sure that you've signed up for our email, or you've joined us and subscribed to our YouTube channel. You can also find us, as you know, on LinkedIn and Facebook. If you want to go to our website now, it's the Soulful Leader Project, and our actual website is TSLP for the Soulful Leader Project .life. So TSLP.life, and you'll find all the information, and you'll be able to follow along with us. And we would love to hear, what's your profile? What did you come out as? How does that relate to other profiles that you've maybe kind of checked out, or profile tests that you've done? So we look forward to seeing you on LinkedIn or on Facebook, and hearing your feedback on our YouTube channel. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you all next week on the Soulful Leader Podcast.
And that wraps up another episode of the Soulful Leader podcast with your hosts, Stephanie Allen
and Maren Oslack. Thank you for listening. If you'd like to dive deeper, head over to our website at thesoulfulleaderpodcast.com.
Until next time.